New Horizons. Sam Carter's arrival at the intergalactic menagerie. Sam Carter stood at the edge of the translucent energy barrier, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Beyond the shimmering field lay a vista straight out of his wildest dreams, or nightmares, depending on how you looked at it. The intergalactic menagerie sprawled before him, a labyrinth of impossible structures housing creatures from the farthest reaches of the known universe. "Well, are you coming in or not, human?" The irritated voice snapped Sam out of his reverie. He turned to face his new employer, Director Zixlara, a being that resembled nothing so much as a sentient, shimmering crystal formation. Her faceted surface reflected the myriad colors of the alien sun, creating a dazzling light show with every movement. "Sorry, Director," Sam mumbled, stepping through the barrier. The tingling sensation as he passed through sent shivers down his spine. It's just a lot to take in. Zixlara's crystalline form vibrated in what Sam had come to recognize as laughter. "You humans, and your constant state of awe. It's endearing in a primitive sort of way. Now, let's begin your orientation. Try not to gawk too much. It unsettles some of the more sensitive species." As they moved through the menagerie, Sam struggled to keep his jaw from dropping. Enclosures of every conceivable shape and size lined winding paths that seemed to defy the laws of physics. In one, creatures of living fire danced in intricate patterns. In another, beings of pure energy pulsed and swirled in hypnotic rhythms. "Your primary responsibility will be the Earth Analog section," Zixlara explained, leading Sam to a more familiar-looking area. Here, the enclosures resembled terrestrial habitats, albeit with some alien twists. "We've had difficulties maintaining this section. Most of our staff find Earth creatures unpredictable and, frankly, terrifying." Sam couldn't help but chuckle. Terrifying. But they're just normal animals. Zixlara's form pulsed with an emotion Sam couldn't quite interpret. "Normal for you, perhaps. But consider this. Many of these creatures actively hunt their prey. They use physical force to kill and consume other beings. It's barbaric by the standards of most civilized species." As if on cue, a lion in a nearby enclosure let out a thunderous roar, causing several alien visitors to recoil in horror. Sam, however, felt a surge of pride. There was something oddly comforting about the familiar sound amidst all the alien wonders. "I see what you mean," Sam said, trying to keep the amusement out of his voice. "But I assure you, I can handle them. It's what I trained for back on Earth." Zixlara led him to a control panel near the Earth section. "Very well. Your duties will include feeding, habitat maintenance, and behavioral enrichment for the Earth species. You'll also be expected to provide educational talks for our visitors. Many find Earth's ecosystem fascinating, if somewhat disturbing." As Sam familiarized himself with the alien technology, a commotion near one of the enclosures caught his attention. A group of jellyfish-like aliens were floating in front of the wolf exhibit, their translucent bodies pulsing with what appeared to be distress. "Oh dear," Zixlara sighed. "The Aqualians are upset again. They find the concept of pack hierarchy deeply offensive. Could you perhaps explain it to them in a way that won't cause a diplomatic incident?" Sam took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. This, he realized, was why he had been hired. Not just for his knowledge of Earth's fauna, but for his ability to bridge the gap between human understanding and alien sensibilities. "Of course," he said, striding towards the agitated Aqualians. "I'd be happy to explain." As Sam launched into an impromptu lecture on wolf social structures, carefully framing it in terms of cooperative survival strategies rather than dominance, he couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. Here he was, light years from home, acting as an ambassador not just for humanity, but for all of Earth's incredible biodiversity. The Aqualians' agitation gradually subsided as Sam spoke, their bodies slowly shifting from a frenzied red to a calmer blue. By the time he finished, they were even beginning to show signs of curiosity. extending tendrils towards the wolf enclosure for a closer look. "Impressive," Zixlara hummed, her crystalline form glittering with approval. "Perhaps there's hope for you yet, human." As the day wore on, Sam found himself constantly challenged by the unique perspectives of the alien visitors and staff. What seemed mundane to him often provoked reactions ranging from fascination to horror in others. A simple demonstration of how elephants use their trunks to drink water left a group of gaseous beings from the nebula cluster in a state of shock, their vaporous forms swirling in agitation. But they willingly introduce foreign substances into their bodies. One of the beings wheezed, its voice a whistling whisper. How do they not fear contamination? Sam patiently explained the concepts of digestion and immune systems, marveling at how something so fundamental to Earth life could be so alien to others. It was a constant exercise in finding new ways to explain familiar concepts, forcing Sam to see his own world through fresh eyes. As the first day at the intergalactic menagerie drew to a close, Sam found himself exhausted but exhilarated. He had successfully navigated cultural misunderstandings, calmed interspecies tensions, and even managed to make some of the alien staff less terrified of handling Earth creatures. Zixlara approached him as he was finishing up his final rounds. "Well, Sam Carter, you've survived your first day. I must admit, your performance has exceeded my expectations. Perhaps there's more to you humans than meets the eye." Sam grinned, feeling a surge of pride not just for himself, but for all of humanity. "Thank you, Director. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. There's still so much to learn, so many connections to make." As he prepared to leave for the day, Sam cast one last look over the Earth section of the menagerie. The familiar calls of birds, the rustle of leaves, the soft patting of paws on Earth, all of it now seemed somehow more precious, more extraordinary. He was no longer just a zookeeper. He was a bridge between worlds, a translator of life itself. With a smile, Sam stepped back through the energy barrier, ready to face whatever new challenges the next day at the intergalactic menagerie might bring. Little did he know, those challenges would test not just his knowledge and diplomacy, but the very limits of human ingenuity and courage. Alien encounters, navigating xenobiology, and cultural clashes. As Sam entered the intergalactic menagerie for his second day, he was greeted by a cacophony of alien sounds and a riot of otherworldly colors. The excitement of yesterday hadn't worn off, but it was now tinged with a healthy dose of caution. He'd learned the hard way that in this place, even the most innocuous-seeming action could have unforeseen consequences. "Ah, human Sam," a voice like tinkling bells called out. Sam turned to seek Six, one of the menagerie's xenobiologists, gliding towards him. Six was a Luminian, a being of pure light and energy, their form constantly shifting in mesmerizing patterns. "We have a situation that requires your unique perspective." Sam raised an eyebrow. "Oh, what's the problem?" Six's form flickered with what Sam had come to recognize as concern. "It's the Terran aviary. The birds are exhibiting behavior that our systems can't interpret. We fear they might be ill or distressed." As they made their way to the aviary, Sam's mind raced through possibilities. What could be troubling the birds that alien technology couldn't decipher? The answer, when they arrived, was both surprising and amusing. The aviary was a vast, open space that simulated Earth's various environments, from lush rainforests to arid deserts. But today, it was alive with activity of a different kind. Birds of all species were engaged in elaborate displays, singing, dancing, and showing off their plumage. Sam couldn't help but laugh, earning him a confused look from Six. "They're not sick," he explained, watching a peacock strut by with its magnificent tail on full display. "They're courting. It's mating season." Six's form pulsed with rapid flashes of light. "Mating season? You mean they have a designated time for reproduction?" "Well, yes," Sam said, realizing he was about to dive into another cultural minefield. "Many Earth species have specific times of the year when they breed. It's often tied to environmental conditions that ensure the best chances of survival for their offspring. The concept seemed to both fascinate and disturb Six, but they don't just divide when their energy levels are optimal. How inefficient, and all this display. It seems like a waste of resources. Sam spent the next hour explaining the intricacies of sexual selection, genetic diversity, and the evolutionary advantages of complex mating rituals. By the end, Six was still bewildered, but at least they understood that the birds weren't in distress. As they left the aviary, Sam noticed a commotion near the primate enclosure. A group of Zilbonians, aliens that resembled sentient clouds of sparkling dust, were clustered around the viewing area, their particles swirling in agitation. "Now what?" Sam muttered, hurrying over. As he approached, he heard snippets of the Zilbonians' conversation, translated through his universal communicator. Disgraceful. Primitive. How can the menagerie allow such behavior? Sam peered into the enclosure and immediately understood the issue. The chimpanzees were engaged in a grooming session, picking through each other's fur with meticulous care. "Excuse me," Sam interjected, addressing the Zilbonians. "Is there a problem with the exhibit?" One of the Zilbonians turned to him, its particles forming a vaguely face-like pattern. "Problem. These creatures are engaged in parasitic behavior. They're harvesting smaller life forms from each other's bodies. It's barbaric." Sam took a deep breath, reminding himself that what seemed normal to him could be utterly alien to others. "Actually," he began, "what you're seeing is a social bonding activity. The chimpanzees are grooming each other. It's not just about hygiene. It's a way of strengthening social ties within the group." The Zilbonians' agitation seemed to increase. "You mean they intentionally host smaller life forms on their bodies, and removing them is a social activity?" "Well, when you put it like that," Sam muttered, realizing how strange it must sound. He spent the next half-hour explaining the concept of symbiotic relationships, beneficial bacteria, and the complexities of primate social structures. By the time he finished, the Zilbonians were no longer outraged, but they were still clearly perplexed. As they drifted away, still discussing among themselves, Sam couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and amusement. Who would have thought that explaining something as simple as grooming could be a lesson in interstellar diplomacy? The rest of the day continued in a similar vein. Sam found himself constantly switching between zookeeper, translator, and cultural ambassador. He explained to a group of silicon-based life forms why mammals produce milk for their young, reassured a collective consciousness that the solitary behavior of tigers wasn't a sign of mental distress, and even had to give an impromptu lecture on the water cycle when the rain simulator in the temperate forest exhibit caused panic among some desert-dwelling visitors. As the day wore on, Sam began to notice something interesting. While many of the aliens initially reacted with shock or disgust to Earth's creatures, that reaction often gave way to fascination once they understood the context. The very things that made Earth life seem primitive or chaotic, its diversity, its adaptability, its complex social structures, were also what made it captivating. Towards the end of his shift, Sam was approached by Director Zixlera. Her crystalline form seemed to shimmer with an emotion he couldn't quite identify. "Human Sam," she began, her tone uncharacteristically hesitant. "I must confess, I had my doubts about bringing a member of your species onto our staff. Humans are considered unpredictable in many galactic circles, but your performance these past 2 days has been exemplary." Sam felt a surge of pride, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. "Thank you, Director. I'm just doing my best to bridge the gap between Earth and the rest of the galaxy." Zixlera's form pulsed with what Sam had come to recognize as her version of a nod. "Indeed, and it seems that gap may be wider than we realized. Your perspective has been illuminating. Perhaps there is more to learn from Earth and its life forms than we initially thought." As Sam prepared to leave for the day, he couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. He was doing more than just caring for animals. He was changing perceptions, challenging assumptions, and maybe, just maybe, helping to carve out a place for humanity in the vast, strange tapestry of galactic society. Little did he know, his greatest challenge, and humanity's greatest opportunity to prove its worth, was just around the corner. As he left the menagerie, the first rumblings of a crisis that would shake the very foundations of the facility were already beginning to stir. The Great Escape, containing a horde of amorphous blobs. Sam's third day at the intergalactic menagerie started with a bang, literally. As he approached the main entrance, a thunderous explosion rocked the entire facility, sending shockwaves through the energy barrier. Alarms blared, their alien tones grating on Sam's ears as he rushed inside. "What's going on?" he shouted to Six, who was zipping past in a frenzied blur of light. "Containment breach in Sector 7. Six's voice was tinged with panic. "The Blobians have escaped." Sam's mind raced. Blobians, amorphous, gelatinous entities capable of absorbing and mimicking the properties of anything they touched. He'd read about them in the menagerie's database, but had never seen one in person. Now, it seemed, he was about to get a crash course. As he sprinted towards Sector 7, the scene that greeted him was one of utter chaos. Dozens of shimmering, translucent blobs were oozing their way through the facility, leaving a trail of half-digested equipment in their wake. Alien staff members were frantically trying to corral the creatures, but their efforts seemed futile. Every time they managed to contain one Blobian, it would simply split into two smaller entities and continue its rampage. Director Zixlera materialized beside Sam, her crystalline form vibrating with stress. "This is a disaster. The Blobians are highly empathic. All this panic is only making them more agitated and aggressive." Sam watched as a Blobian engulfed a piece of high-tech equipment, its body briefly glowing with energy, before spitting out the now useless husk. An idea began to form in his mind. "Director," he said, turning to Zixlera, "what do the Blobians usually eat?" "Ambient energy," she replied. "Why? And what's their natural habitat like?" "Calm, low-stimulation environments." "Again, why?" Sam grinned. "I think I know how to stop them. But I'm going to need access to the Earth section's environmental controls, and about a dozen large, insulated containers." Zixlera's form pulsed with confusion, but she nodded. "Very well, human Sam. At this point, I'm willing to try anything." With the director's authorization, Sam raced to the control room. His fingers flew over the Great Escape, containing a horde of amorphous blobs. With the director's authorization, Sam raced to the control room. His fingers flew over the alien console, adjusting settings and rerouting power. Within minutes, he had transformed the Earth section into a trap for the Blobians. "Okay," Sam announced over the facility-wide communication system. "I need all staff to remain calm and evacuate the Earth section, and someone bring those insulated containers to the rainforest habitat." As alien staff scrambled to comply, Sam made his way to the rainforest exhibit. He arrived just as the first wave of Blobians oozed into the area, drawn by the promise of abundant energy. The plan worked perfectly. The humid, energy-rich environment of the simulated rainforest acted like a magnet for the Blobians. As they entered, Sam activated the modified environmental controls. The temperature dropped rapidly, and a fine mist began to fall. Not water, but a coolant that Sam had repurposed from the Arctic exhibit. The effect on the Blobians was immediate. The rapid temperature change caused them to slow down, their gelatinous bodies becoming more viscous. As they struggled to move, Sam and a team of brave alien staff members scooped them up into the insulated containers. Within an hour, the last of the Blobians had been safely contained. The menagerie was a mess, but the crisis had been averted. Director Zixlera approached Sam, her crystalline form gleaming with what he now recognized as admiration. "Impressive work, human Sam. How did you know that would work?" Sam shrugged, a smile playing on his lips. On Earth, we have creatures called slime molds. They're not exactly like Blobians, but they behave similarly in some ways. I figured if temperature affects them, it might affect Blobians too. Zixlera's form pulsed with curiosity. You applied knowledge of an Earth life form to an alien species. That's remarkably adaptable thinking. That's kind of our thing, Sam replied with a grin. Humans, I mean. We're good at making connections, finding solutions in unexpected places. As the cleanup began, Sam couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had faced a crisis that even the advanced alien technology couldn't handle, and he had solved it using knowledge from his humble home planet. It was a small victory, but an important one. Proof that humanity had something unique to offer the galactic community. Little did Sam know, this incident was just a prelude to an even greater challenge that would test not just his problem-solving skills, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. Zixlera's form pulsed with curiosity. You applied knowledge of an Earth life form to an alien species. That's remarkably adaptable thinking. That's kind of our thing, Sam replied with a grin. Humans, I mean. We're good at making connections, finding solutions in unexpected places. As the cleanup began, Sam couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had faced a crisis that even the advanced alien technology couldn't handle, and he had solved it using knowledge from his humble home planet. It was a small victory, but an important one. Proof that humanity had something unique to offer the galactic community. Little did Sam know, this incident was just a prelude to an even greater challenge that would test not just his problem-solving skills, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. Director Zixlera's crystalline form was vibrating with stress as she pulled Sam aside. The Zorgan ambassador's prized pet has gone missing in the menagerie. They're accusing us of theft and threatening war if it's not returned unharmed within the next solar rotation. Sam's mind reeled. War? Over a pet. The Tycloth is more than just a pet to the Zorgans, Zixlera explained. It's a symbol of their cultural heritage, a living embodiment of their warrior spirit. Losing it is tantamount to losing their honor. Sam took a deep breath, assessing the situation. Okay, what does this Tycloth look like? And where was it last seen? As Zixlera briefed him on the details, Sam's mind was already racing through possibilities. The Tycloth, it turned out, was a creature that resembled a cross between an earth tiger and a porcupine, with iridescent quills that could change color based on its mood. It had last been seen near the earth section, which immediately set off alarm bells in Sam's head. I think I might know where to start looking, he said, but I'm going to need some equipment, and, well, you're probably not going to like my plan. Over the next few hours, Sam put his knowledge of Earth's predators to use in a way he never could have anticipated. Using a combination of pheromone trails, sound lures, and carefully placed bait, he created a path that he hoped would appeal to the Tycloth's predatory instincts. The plan was risky. More than once, Sam found himself face to face with irritated alien creatures that had been attracted by his lures. But slowly, methodically, he narrowed down the search area. Finally, as the deadline loomed, Sam's perseverance paid off. He found the Tycloth curled up in a hidden corner of the aviary, its quills a deep blue that Sam interpreted as contentment. The challenge now was getting it back to its owners without causing a diplomatic incident. Sam approached cautiously, remembering everything he'd learned about handling large predators back on Earth. Hey there, big guy, he said softly, keeping his body language non-threatening. You've caused quite a stir, you know that. The Tycloth's quills shifted to a wary yellow, but it didn't attack. Slowly, carefully, Sam managed to coax it into a transport container, using techniques he'd learned for moving big cats. The return of the Tycloth to the Zorgan delegation was met with a mix of relief and lingering tension. The Zorgan ambassador, a towering figure with metallic scales and eyes like burning coals, inspected the creature critically. You are fortunate, humans, the ambassador growled, that no harm has come to the Tycloth. But this incident will not be forgotten. Sam, running on adrenaline and a burst of inspiration, stepped forward. "Ambassador, if I may," he said, bowing respectfully. "I believe this incident could be an opportunity rather than a source of conflict." The ambassador's eyes narrowed, but he gestured for Sam to continue. "The Tickloth was drawn to our Earth section because it found the environment stimulating and challenging," Sam explained. "This shows that Earth and Zorgan ecosystems have surprising similarities. Perhaps this could be the beginning of a cultural exchange program. The menagerie could host a permanent Zorgan exhibit, showcasing the beauty and strength of your wildlife." For a tense moment, silence reigned. Then, to everyone's surprise, the Zorgan ambassador laughed, a sound like grinding metal that nevertheless conveyed genuine amusement. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human," the ambassador said. "But your words have merit. We will consider your proposal." As the Zorgan delegation departed, crisis averted, Director Zixlera turned to Sam with an unreadable expression. That was unconventional diplomacy, human Sam, but effective. Perhaps there is more to learn from Earth's methods than we realized. Sam allowed himself a small smile. Once again, human adaptability and out-of-the-box thinking had turned a potential disaster into an opportunity. But he knew that the greatest challenges, and the true test of humanity's place in the galactic community, were yet to come. Humanity's triumph. Sam's ingenuity saves the menagerie. The weeks following the Zorgan incident were a whirlwind of activity for Sam. His unorthodox but effective methods had caught the attention of not just the menagerie staff, but visiting dignitaries from across the galaxy. He found himself increasingly called upon to solve problems that baffled even the most advanced alien minds. But it was a quiet day, almost a month after his arrival, when Sam faced his greatest challenge yet, one that would determine not just his own fate, but potentially the standing of humanity in the galactic community. The day started normally enough. Sam was in the middle of a routine check of the Earth mammals when alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The sound was different this time, more urgent, more final. "Attention all personnel." Director Zixlera's voice rang out over the communication system, an edge of panic in her usually composed tone. "We have a Class Omega emergency. The menagerie's primary power core is destabilizing. If not contained, the resulting explosion will destroy not just the facility, but half the sector. We have one planetary rotation to solve this crisis, or initiate total evacuation." Sam's heart raced as he rushed to the central control room. The scene that greeted him was one of barely controlled chaos. Alien scientists and engineers from a dozen species were frantically working at various consoles, their usual composure shattered by the gravity of the situation. Director Zixlera's crystalline form was pulsing with rapid, stressed flashes as she briefed Sam on the situation. The power core, a piece of technology so advanced it bordered on magic to Sam's understanding, was experiencing a cascading failure. The force field containing the massive energies was weakening, and none of their attempts to stabilize it had worked. "I don't understand," Sam said, his mind reeling as he tried to grasp the complexities of the alien technology. "Why can't you just shut it down?" One of the alien engineers, a being that looked like a sentient cloud of gas, answered. "The core has reached a critical point. Shutting it down would trigger the very explosion we're trying to prevent. We need to find a way to safely bleed off the excess energy, but our usual methods are failing." Sam stared at the holographic display of the power core, its swirling energies a maelstrom of barely contained chaos. Something about the pattern tickled at his memory, reminding him of something he'd seen back on Earth. "This might sound crazy," he said slowly, an idea forming. "But the way that energy is moving, it reminds me of a hurricane." The alien scientists exchanged confused looks. "A hurricane?" one of them asked. "Yeah, it's a massive storm system on Earth," Sam explained, his excitement growing as the idea took shape. "And we've been developing ways to weaken or divert hurricanes using cloud seeding and cool water upwelling." He turned to the holographic display, pointing out patterns in the energy flow. "See how it's rotating. If we could introduce some kind of opposing force here and here, we might be able to disrupt the flow enough to bleed off the excess energy safely." The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. Sam found himself at the center of a bizarre collaboration, explaining Earth weather patterns to some of the galaxy's greatest scientific minds. They worked to adapt Sam's ideas to the alien technology, creating a plan that was equal parts cutting-edge science and primitive Earth meteorology. As the deadline loomed, they'd put their plan into action. Using modified force field generators, they introduced opposing energy patterns into the core, mimicking the effects of cloud seeding and cool water upwelling on a cosmic scale. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. The core continued to pulse ominously, its energies threatening to break free at any second. Then, slowly but surely, the swirling patterns began to change. The violent energy started to dissipate, bleeding off harmlessly into specially prepared containment fields. Hours later, as the last of the excess energy was safely contained, a cheer went up throughout the control room. They had done it. The menagerie and countless lives throughout the sector had been saved. In the aftermath, as the cleanup and repair work began, Sam found himself the center of attention. Aliens of all species approached him, their usual reserve replaced by open curiosity, and in many cases, newfound respect. Director Zixlera called a special assembly, her crystalline form glowing with an intensity Sam had never seen before. Today, she announced to the gathered crowd, "We witnessed something extraordinary. Faced with a crisis that our most advanced technology could not solve, it was the innovative thinking of our human colleague that saved us all." She turned to Sam, her form pulsing with what he now recognized as deep appreciation. "Human Sam, you have shown us that there is great value in diverse perspectives. Your species' ability to draw connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, to find solutions in unexpected places, is a gift that the galactic community sorely needs." As Sam stood there, basking in the alien equivalent of applause, he felt a profound sense of pride, not just in himself, but in all of humanity. They had faced their first great test in the galactic community and had passed with flying colors. In that moment, Sam knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven its worth, shown that it had something unique and valuable to offer the universe. The path ahead would not be easy, but it was filled with endless possibilities. As he looked out at the diverse array of alien life forms, each with their own unique perspectives and abilities, Sam couldn't help but smile. The universe, it turned out, was far stranger and more wonderful than humanity had ever imagined. And now, they were ready to take their place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals, bringers of innovation, adaptability, and that uniquely human spark of ingenuity that could light up the cosmos. The intergalactic menagerie, once just a job, had become the stage for humanity's grand entrance into the galactic community. And Sam Carter, once just a zookeeper from Earth, had become an ambassador for his entire species, ready to face whatever new challenges the vast, strange universe might throw their way.